Come, walk down the winding path. Don't mind the spooks and monsters. They stay hidden within the trees. There are mysteries in this world that you need to know, and paranormal truths that need to be told. Come, step up into the caravan while we share tales of old, as well as new accounts about things you thought only existed in your nightmares.
Yeah, Bunny Ann.
Oh, jeez, no.
This is Vance and Sean, and tonight we're talking with Bunny.
Welcome back inside the caravan. I have with me Vance Nesbitt and Sean Forker. Hi, guys.
Hi, it's great to be here once again. I'm back in my caravan couch here and sitting with the one and only Sean the Fork Chop Forker. Hello, Sean.
Hello, everybody.
Feel free to browse through the. Thank you. I was just going to say, feel free to browse through the magazines on the coffee table here.
The Library of Lore.
The Library of Lore. Yes, we have the witches, potions, and lotions. I think you might find that rather interesting of a read.
Lotions, huh? Put some lotion in the basket.
Oh my gosh.
We do things like that at the caravan here, and we make outfits out of supple skinned women. So, but that's our own little secret. We will not share that on a podcast.
No.
Anyway, Sean, you asked me a question over at the Existence of Strange Things. That little show that we do over there for Radio Memphis, or it's on Radio Memphis. Show. It's just a little show. But you asked me a question there, so I'm going to throw it back at you now, and I'm going to ask you that question of, what is it, Sean, that got you into this whole paranormal cave of spelunking and all the spiderweb mess of paranormal? What was it that got you into all of this?
Well, I grew up around it my whole life, so I remember just as far back as I can remember, watching TV shows with my dad, Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, Unsolved Mysteries, which I used to have to go to bed at 8 o'clock on Sunday nights because school's the next morning, and I'd be in my bed just like with my covers up to my eyes with that Unsolved Mysteries theme playing in the living room, just scaring the hell out of me. And when finally I was a little older, I was able to watch it. Shows like In Search Of, so it was always around it. My dad was always watching something documentary based or paranormal based, and one time on our way to visit my mom's brother who lived in Virginia Beach at the time, I love to talk. You guys know this. You're around me enough, and I wouldn't stop talking on a car ride. And I was driving my dad absolutely nuts. And it's a long drive. It's like a 9-hour drive. So he stopped and picked up a book along the road. And the book was, at a store along the road, not just lying on the road. That'd be even more weird. But he stole a book from a hobo called Sasquatch. He just knocked the bum out and stole his book. Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us from John Green. And I read the book. I was like 9 at the time. And I got hooked. And ever since that, I couldn't get enough knowledge. And we're still going back to the 90s where there weren't a million books on Bigfoot like there are today, or at least my library didn't have any. And I'll admit it right now, if my library had a book on it, I never returned it. I kept it for myself. So I probably owe them some money because you know what? They never had them in stock. When they did, I took them. So
sure. No, that's fantastic.
That's okay. When I die, in my will, my wife is donating all my books to the library because nobody else will take
to a library.
But
right,
so we'll pay it forward. But so I always grew up around this stuff. My grandfather always had books around the house, weird stories around the Amazon. Actually, I still have the copy of the book he gave me. There's a first edition book called Monsters by Vincent Price, and it's up in one of the totes, and it was an amazing book. And I remember opening it up and it had a picture from the Himalayas of the, famous footprint with the ice pick next to it. And I'm like, there's got to be something to this. So as I got older, I read more on it. The internet finally became a thing when I was probably in middle school or high school. I was the first one in my neighborhood to really have high-speed internet, so I was, hot stuff. And I just assimilated everything I could. I found the BFRO website, and when I was 17, I finally got out and started interviewing witnesses and, really just getting out and starting the research. I joined the PA Bigfoot Society in 2004, and Eric Altman, who's a pretty, recognized name in the field, kind of became my mentor, and he and I became fast friends, and it started me off on this really crazy journey I've been on now for it'll be 22, 23 years this year.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
See, I love stories like that, and I love making the connection when somebody has a similar experience in their life as to what got them into it. Not to make it about me, but I find that really cool that your dad actually stopped. And again, we didn't take out a hobo to get a book from him, but that he stopped and took the time to get you a decent read that now started you on this journey. And I've always found myself, of course, I had, a profound paranormal experience, but I found myself gravitated towards looking at UFO books, but right next to that was the Bigfoot and the Yeti and the Loch Ness Monster. And I'm like, whoa, wait, wow, there is a whole world of coolness out here I didn't really know that existed. And, of course, again, it's the library. It had a limited edition of the amount of books you could find on it, and then you find that thirst because you want more. So, yes, fortunately, let's give kudos to those that created the internet and to what it is today. Now we can pretty much type in anything and something will come up, at least something.
Yeah, that's the best part about it.
And it keeps that thirst fed, so to speak, of doing research. But yeah, I find it fun and fascinating to meet other people in this community and how they got into it, because it's a brotherhood. It really is a brotherhood. And I know Jennifer has, similar stories as well, right?
I do. It's funny you mentioned the Unsolved Mysteries. That was something that my grandfather and I always watched together. And I remember one of the ones that scared me the most was about spontaneous human combustion.
Hot topic.
The biggest thing was it was the true I don't want to say true stories. Human interaction stories, like, hey, this person murdered somebody and they've never been found, or whatever the story is. Those were the ones that scared me more than the paranormal ones.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Right, because there was tangible evidence left behind.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I don't know about you guys, but that part, like when you're watching one of those stories and, it's one of those murderer stories and, like, nothing made you feel better than when they played that, like, update music. This SOB has been found. You're like, oh, great. I can sleep tonight. Yay.
All right. Yes, I know exactly what you mean, and I forgot all about that until you just brought it up. That's fantastic.
That's
it's
so
like,
awesome.
Oh, God bless. Yes, he was caught. Oh, yes. Yeah, because without that music, man, you're doomed for the night. It's like, oh, no.
I grew up in a ranch-style house, so, like, everything was on the first floor. And a true story happened to me one time is I had gone to sleep, and it was about probably 10:30 or 11 at night, and I distinctly remember the screen to my bedroom window coming off and an arm coming through my window and grabbing around trying to get into my room. Oh, yeah, and I screamed. Oh, yeah, my dad came into the room, saw, like, my curtain moving, so my dad ran outside and chased this SOB down the street. I don't know if my dad ever got him, but I'd never seen my dad move so fast in my life. So somebody tried to, like, break into the house in my room So after that, I encouraged my dad to nail my screen to the window, and he's like, "What if there's a fire?" I'm like, "Who cares?
Yeah,
I don't want that to ever happen
I'll burn up
again."
in the fire. Thank
Yep,
you.
that's okay.
Just put jail bars around my windows. That will be fine. Thank you. Oh my God, how terrifying is that?
So these human stories that you're talking about, like with that connection, like people scare me far more than the paranormal. And I don't even mean that to be from a paranoid, delusional standpoint. Like these things that are paranormal, there's always that part of us that's like, maybe they exist or maybe they don't exist, right? Like Bigfoot. And I've had my own encounters that have changed my mind in that. But there's nothing scarier than being in a moment like where you're in real mortal danger from an actual living, breathing human being. Humans are far more scary than anything we could ever investigate.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I agree.
I mean, we're the most violent species on this planet.
Well,
right.
And the fact that you can just that there's people out there that just don't care, and how far people will go. It's terrifying. The real monsters.
It is. So, like that update sound, that was my saving grace. I love that. I'm like, oh, great.
Yes.
Well, they got this guy. Now on to the next freak. And guys, like all episodes of like Unsolved Mysteries are on Amazon now.
Oh,
so
really?
You can get your fix every single season with Robert Stack, who I will never be able to smoke enough cigars or drink enough scotch to get a voice like Robert.
Oh
Robert,
my gosh.
Stack. And I'm trying. Well, not the smoking part, but the scotch part. I'm trying, and I don't think I can do that.
We'll work on it.
the other big thing too that really opened the door for me, and this will, I don't know, it's kind of funny. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
I was about 6 years old when the very first one came out, and then I think I was about 8 or 9 when I really started getting them, like every year at the school book fair, and I couldn't get enough. And then there was those the scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys saw those.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yep.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's
Nickelodeon.
really...
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I found it on YouTube, and they don't have all the episodes, but they have quite a bit. And I sat my girls down and I'm like, you've got to see this. And they were so into it. Yeah. Are they?
Yeah, they're bringing it back.
Oh.
I don't know when, but they are reviving the show. I saw it online the other day. I should post stuff more often about that. Terrible with social media.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're bringing back a lot of the Nickelodeon primetime stuff that was doing really well for them. I see that it is getting revamped and brought back in a different carrier and format, but still, they're bringing those shows back, which
they should,
that's fine.
Because they worked.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Our generation's not messed up at all. No, we're fine.
Actually, you know what? I have to say, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We had a few missteps along the way, but we're pretty good. Like, this next generation, they're screwed. I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell to do.
I have to say, before I forget, I didn't get to listen to the last episode of, like, the whole thing of The Existence of Strange Things on Friday. I didn't get to listen to all of it, but Lon was talking about the Goat Man. And I got so excited because there was a book, and I think I was in 5th grade. And it sucks because I don't remember what the book looked like. I don't remember.
Oh, the Pope Lake Monster?
Well, no. The Lake Worth Monster.
The Lake Worth. And the Lake Worth Monster, and I think he brought up the Pope Lake Monster too. But yes.
The story that I read in this book, and it had all these different stories. Like, it had one about this black dog that was kind of an omen, and then it had this goat man of Lover's Lane, and it talked about how it would bang on their car. And I always wanted to find that story and read more about it. And then I think Lon said in the chat that there's still sightings today.
I believe it. I really do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lon probably wrote the book, though, so you might want to...
I want to go. I mean, maybe that's a dumb decision, but man, could you imagine, like, coming across that?
I keep laughing at Lon because he keeps writing books. He's not saving any topics for the rest of us.
It's cool.
Yeah, this
it's
is
cool.
true. Yeah,
I want to write
true.
a book.
When my Coke can comes and chases me around the house, I'll have something to write about.
That might be the only thing that's left by the time Lon's done.
Yeah.
You know?
Right? Oh, my goodness.
All right, so here was really, go on.
I make so much fun of Lon and Butch, but I really love those guys. They're so much fun to work with. And, they're both, significantly older than me. And, I'll push them around in their, in their chairs, and we'll go out and we'll have a good time. I'm kidding. They're going to kill me. But, no, I really do have a good time with them.
That's awesome.
Well, when this episode airs, we'll just make sure that there is a notation on there, not for Butch or Lon.
You may not listen to this.
Right?
You may not.
And they're both controversial guys, though, because Butch and Lon are both guys that will tell you what's on their mind. You don't have to push them very hard for them to do it. And they, Lon gets a lot of flack because I think people don't think he's skeptical enough. But actually, when you get to know Lon, there's quite a bit of skepticism underneath the, all the stuff. But he reports it as it comes in, and I think that's what I can't stress to people enough. And a lot of times it's like, well, of course you say that. You work with him. Well, yeah, I do, and he's earned my respect over the years. But he reports this stuff as it comes into the witness, and you're getting the first-hand account without editing, unless he's got to clean it up because some people don't write very well. But he feels it's not his place to put words in the witness's mouth as you're reading it. Then he'll do a follow-up with his thoughts, and that is for people can do whatever they want with that. But for the majority of what's posted on Phantoms and Monsters and what comes through, that is right from the witness. It doesn't get any fresher than that. So, with this whole thing with Chicago, right, because he's taken a lot of flack over Chicago. And I don't think it's fair because there's a lot of people working behind the scenes on it. He's putting out there what people are saying and what people are reporting. And their thing is, well, this isn't possible. Okay, that's fine. Lon's not saying it is possible. Lon's not the one out there seeing it. These people are seeing it's possible. And unfortunately, the majority of us I live quite a bit away from Chicago. If not, Vance and I would be eating some pizza right now. He can't get out there and investigate, so we have to rely on the investigators that are out there and what they're reporting back to us. And is that the best way to do it? No, but it's what we got. And unless people want to start shutting up and start putting up the money for a unlimited travel fund, it is what it is. And this is what's being put out there. He wrote a book on it. He gave his opinions. He also gave the opinions of everybody else in the task force. So now you're not just getting what he believes, you're getting what everybody in that group believes. And I think that's pretty extraordinary. I don't think it gets much better than that.
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, for me personally, when it comes to, is that true? Is that real? And the whole skeptical thing, I don't really jump on either side. I really like to play with, well, what if? What if it was? Let's pretend.
Me too. Because what if is where imagination is, right? And there's a lot of people out there today that will tell you, well, shame on them for reporting on this and shame on them for writing a book. Well, you're going to go write your own book and write your own article and attempt to sell a skeptical viewpoint on the same viewpoint that the guy who's believing the witnesses is putting out there. So it's okay for you to make money on it saying it doesn't exist, but nobody else can make money off it, under the same premise. So where's the real problem with this? You have skeptics making money off witnesses who say they're seeing something by trying to disprove them and discredit them, and you have somebody trying to prove and help research what they're saying, making money off it. So where's the distinction and where's the wrong? That's what I don't understand.
Right.
I agree.
No, it is a very good point, and it's very true. I believe it was last Thursday I was out and about doing my job, and I'm that type of person. I'm always looking up. I always look up. It's just because what am I going to see? And something caught my eye at a very high altitude, but it was a large flying something, not UFO because it was flapping its wings, but this thing was at a really high altitude, but I couldn't really make the distinction enough to say, whoa, could it be? It could be, but I just keep it to myself because I didn't have enough tangible proof for what I'm looking at to say, oh my God, Lon, I saw it. But hey, for all the reports that have come in, something is going on. Something has to be going on with all the reports that were coming in. And
it's like
for
John
people,
Green said with Bigfoot, Vance. It's like John Green said with Bigfoot. Even if all of them were proven to be a hoax but one report was still legitimate, and that made it all worth it, right?
Oh, right. Absolutely.
Oh, exactly.
And it's the same way with the Chicago sighting. And I didn't mean to step on you there. I'm sorry.
Right.
But
No.
This is happening too much. And I have a real problem with, we talked about just a few moments ago, people, skeptics making money off it and believers making money off it or researchers making money off it. The only time I have a problem with it is when somebody's deliberately hoaxing to make money off it.
Right.
Right.
That's the problem. And there's that fine line in the middle. And if the witnesses are reporting these in and it's being investigated, and some people don't like the way things are being investigated or that witnesses aren't always available, that's on the witness, first of all. That's not on us. There's a confidentiality in place for a reason, to protect them from being onslaughted by believers and skeptics and just random run-of-the-mill people who maybe these people don't want their family to know they saw something. It's traumatic enough to experience it, let alone now you have, you're at a family get-together and everybody's making fun of you because you saw the great waffle man of Tucson, Arizona. It could be something dreadful, and it could have affected them in a very traumatic way. But it's if we can't talk to them and they're not available to everybody, well, heaven forbid it, they have to be a hoaxer. I don't believe in that either. And I didn't mean to take this, and I just had a little bit of a platform here, and I wanted to soapbox on it because it's been on my mind. I wrote a small snippet of it on the Existers page, and I just wanted to follow up on it and put that out there when I get an opportunity, because it's not fair. These guys do a lot of work, and let's just see where this goes. Like Jen said, what if? What is wrong with living in the realm of what if? And in this dang near dystopian age we live in right now, what is so wrong with a little hope and a little thing that says what if? It's not hurting anybody,
Well, exactly.
No, it's not hurting anybody. All right. So my point is, look, if Bigfoot was a hoax, and it's been going on for the 1,000 years that it has, the human race creating the hoax is a bigger story than the Bigfoot itself. So
agreed.
Right there is kind of a tangible thing to say, maybe something really is going on here. And I think the same thing is with this Chicago flying humanoid sighting the same way. If this is all a hoax amongst people, I think that's the greater story than an actual flying bat-winged creature.
Yeah, because then it kind of proves that we can create a mass hysteria just by the power of suggestion is that strong.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know, and yet none of us have an answer still. But it's fun to look. It's definitely fun to look. And I hear cryptids myself in the back. Did you hear that? Do you know what that was?
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. Don't apologize.
Before I forget, I was just going to say that it's crazy because, for years people have been talking about, monsters or what have you, all the different books and cave paintings and movies, and all this stuff. And then I know that within my own personal life, I've seen a lot of just weird stuff that I can't necessarily explain. And I would really be shocked if everything was not real. It just wouldn't make sense.
Right.
I mean, there's just too much. There's too much evidence to be like, nope, those aren't real, and Sasquatch isn't real, and whatever.
No, I agree with you, and I think that just really fits into the same vein as to what we were really just discussing, that would be the bigger story than the actual creature itself. And
Right.
so I do find that really fascinating. But, you know, do you believe in leprechauns? I don't know.
I have a story about a leprechaun.
Do you? I want to hear it.
Oh, not
Since
St. Ooh, I'm fascinated.
Since St.
Unfortunately, it's
Patty's
one.
Day is right here, we may as
That's
well
right.
have a leprechaun story. So, better
Right?
come to the old St. Patty Day leprechaun story.
Well, okay, so it's two different stories, but it's really the same one. My sister had a friend that experienced this, and then I also had a friend who experienced this when she was in elementary school. And it's unique because my sister lives 4 hours apart. And so
Right.
it just makes it more interesting to me. So when my friend was really little, she saw this thing that was really short, you know, shorter than, I don't know, it was like, I would say about the size of a 1 or 2 year old, but it was built like it looked like, you know, an adult, and it had a kind of a twisted, gnarly face, and it tried to drown her. It chased after her, and she was by the pond out in her backyard, and it tried to drown her.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh,
That's
And
messed up.
yeah, no, it is, and it really it upset her for a long time. I mean, we were in middle school or early high school when she told me about it, and you could still see on her face that it was like it was yesterday. And then my sister's friend had a similar experience. It didn't try to drown her; she wasn't by a pond, but it had chased her and tried to grab her. So, you know,
oh,
who knows?
I will never eat Lucky Charms the same way ever again.
I mean,
come
whenever
on,
I've
no
heard of,
way.
whenever
They're
I've heard of
magically delicious.
leprechauns, well, I've always heard of them in a very sinister way. I've never heard anything good about them.
Well, you
No.
know, ever since I saw that movie with Jennifer Aniston and Warwick Davis as the leprechaun, I could never think of leprechauns the same way again either.
Right.
In fact, I blame that movie for me always wanting to kick little people in the head.
Oh, oh my goodness. Oh.
And I don't mean
No
children, I
offense,
mean
little people. Yeah.
No offense, little people. It's nothing against you. Blame Warwick Davis. He didn't
Yeah.
represent you very well in that.
Right.
You're always after me pot of gold, and then you punt right in the head. One of those things came after me, it'd be the end of its life. I could not deal with the leprechaun. If I'm out in the garden and I see a leprechaun, it's going in my lawnmower.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody, if you're out there listening, get them before they get you.
You, exactly. See, you know, that kind of goes back to a conversation I think maybe we all had a while ago about, you know, your favorite monster and why. If there's going to be a monster, let's have it be a Cloverfield or a Godzilla. It's big. I can see where it's at, and I can run away from it. But these little leprechauns and little tiny aliens and little zombie killers, no, dude, I can't see where you're hiding at, and no, those are much worse for me. Much worse.
Extraterrestrials scare. The concept of alien abduction horrifies me, and I don't know why, because to my knowledge, I've never been abducted by aliens, but just the thought of something being able to take you against your will in the middle of the night is just...
Well, in your room.
None of us are going to sleep. Is really, really frightening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will give you a piece of advice, Sean, okay? And take this advice. It doesn't get any better the older you get. It does not. I thought, okay, it'll be a phase thing and I'll grow out of it. No. 30-some years later, I'm still just as terrified of that as I was then. I'm like, no, I don't know about camping out in the middle of nowhere. And no. I'm just like, you know, the worm on the hook, just baiting myself for them to come down and take me away. And then over the years, I'm finding out, no. See, they can walk right through your walls or right through your bedroom window and take you. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, no, now this is not cool. My room is my sanctuary. You cannot just walk through the walls and take me. So, yeah, that whole concept, terrifying.
If Paul Sinclair, the gentleman we just interviewed, and his show played last Friday night, he talks about that in detail, about some of the experiences he went through as a child with alien abduction. We actually spent more time on that interview with that segment than we were planning on. We went a lot longer and more detailed because Lon just automatically drew comparisons to the David Eckert case that he's been working on for, over a century. And those, not really a century. People are going to take that literal, and it was meant as sarcasm. But, those situations, like I can only empathize with people because I've never experienced it, but they have my complete empathy. Because imagine seeing a Bigfoot's one thing. Seeing a UFO is one thing. Imagine being the person that is being abducted. Should something like that be a legitimate bona fide thing? And I'm not saying it's not, but let's just put that part out there in case, right?
Right.
Imagine being that person that's continually experiencing this and doesn't have anybody to go to talk to. And then finally they get the courage to go talk to somebody. And it's like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. Like, is this happening to people? There's no support groups for that you could go to in your local town, like how I was abducted on Tuesday. Like, there's nowhere you can go and say, hi, I'm Sean Porter. I'm an alien abductee and recurring prober. And you just can't go and do that. And, like, the trauma of these people, and I say that a lot because the more I've talked to witnesses over the years about just generally Bigfoot, but I've done home investigations. I've done a lot of different things. Like, I got a background in Bigfoot, but I've really done a lot of different investigations except for UFOs. I haven't done those yet. But talking with people, there's a psychological aspect to this where you're, as an investigator and a researcher, you're a part psychologist. You wear many different hats in the course of an investigation. And if you are a real, true, and I truly believe I'm partially, I'm just a full-blown empath. I'm really good at feeling how people feel and knowing situations by feeling. And my wife will tell you it's really strange. You can tell when you're being bullshitted, right? There's a body language component to it. There's a eye contact portion, and there's just a sense of the person's personality and expression. When it all gels together, you can tell when there is a legitimate situation that have occurred to these people. Nobody is that good of an actor that can pull it all together. And you meet some of these people that have had these experiences. And I did a home investigation once, and the one person that was experiencing thing in the home was a 7-year-old autistic boy. Okay. And he was cognitive. He had the ability to communicate, not fully able to articulate what he was feeling, but had a little meter. And I went with him in his room and I scanned everything in his room to just give him a little sense of security that there was nothing in there that could hurt him. In his closet, I sat in his closet with him. I scanned teddy bears and pillows and anything he brought to me. I scanned it just to show that it wouldn't ding the meter. And like, this kid was scared, and you're able to give him just a little bit of relief in the moment to know that there's nothing going on here. But like, fear, I just can't stress it to people that just call these people liars and that this stuff doesn't happen. Like, sit with a witness, and somebody who's a legitimate witness, not somebody who's trying to sell their story to whatever the show is. It's not hard copy anymore, but TMZ, whatever. Like, there's a real difference between an experiencee and a hoaxer. And if you can't tell that distinction, get the hell out of the field now. You don't belong in it. Like,
exactly.
Right.
It's heart-wrenching what some of these people go through. It really is.
It is heart-wrenching. And, on that same vein of, you saying hoaxing. So over the last few days, I have been just kind of archiving on my own time here. And still to this day, there is more tangible proof that this particular video is not a hoax, that it is an actual un-CGI'd video of the UFO that was recorded over the Turkish Sea, where they zoom in and you can see those big-eyed aliens sitting behind the windows of this thing in zoom. Now, it's not crystal clear, but it's clear enough where you can see two of them sitting there moving around in this craft. And yet still, it has been analyzed and scrutinized just like, the Patterson-Gimlin film. And nobody yet can say it is definitely a hoax. They can't. Now, the beauty of the Patterson-Gimlin is it was film. There was no CGI or alterating, so anything that you saw had to have been done through costuming and set. Well, this video is, you can tell, I don't know, sometimes you can tell CGI and sometimes, it's a challenge. But this video creeps me out every time I see it. And if it is a real video, that verifies what these people claim are abducting them.
Wow.
Right there. That's enough proof for me right there to say, okay, I totally buy into that, because you can clearly see both of these entities sitting, and it looks like, a captain window or something on this gigantic ship that they're zooming in on. And just you can YouTube it. It's just look up Turkish UFO, and
okay.
I'll be darned if I forget the gentleman's name, the doctor who passed away within the last year, that was doing the surgeries to remove probes and so on that worked on.
I just watched that documentary too. It wasn't Lear, was it?
No.
It was no.
Oh, was it? Oh boy.
I know.
Don't
exactly. It was Patient. Was it Patient 14 or something? Was the name of the documentary?
Oh, that's possible. But he did work on Whitley Schreiber, and he tried to do his surgery. And I know he just recently passed away. But he was there during the filming of that UFO video in Turkey, because they were there for a UFO conference. And that was the creepy part of it all. They all came out, at break time after the conference, and it's dark out, and somebody, they had their cameras set up on tripods, and sure enough, they see this thing way off on the horizon of this light that's just hovering there. And of course, fortunately, they had, a decent camera with telephoto lens on it, and was able to zoom in on the thing while recording. How fantastic is that? But Bo, what you see in that video, it creeps me out, and I'm like, okay, if that's not a hoax, then this is actually really going on with these people.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, I don't know if I've ever. I know that I've talked to you and Shannon about it, Vance, but I don't think that I've talked about it publicly with that dream that I had. And I don't think Sean knows about it, so I'll share a little bit. I feel like I have a little bit of insight to what the people go through, just because there was one night that I don't know if you want to call it a dream, or very, very realistic dream, or what you want to call it, but it consisted of me laying on this table, and there was other people there, and there was these, they look like humans, but they were really pretty, though. One had this gorgeous red hair, another one had like blonde hair, and they communicated telepathically. And I remember I was wearing kind of this white, I don't know, like an oversized shirt. Well, they stuck a needle in my left arm, and they injected me with something, and they told me, not to worry, that everything was going to be okay, and they left the room through these double doors that kind of swung. And I remember the person that was on the table next to me, it was another woman, and they were all women. She didn't really have a response to me, which I thought was weird. And I'm just like, okay, they're gone, and I need to leave. I need to get out of here. And so I get up off the table, and I run through a different set of doors, and all of a sudden I'm in the whitest room that you've ever seen, and it's just, I don't know, super clean, and then everything just blurs out. Well, I wake up the next morning and I have a puncture wound on that arm.
Oh wow.
And it's really it's really disturbed me ever since. So I don't know. I don't know.
I wouldn't even know how to begin to tackle that one, honestly. And
right?
I think when you have dreams that are so vivid, like, you could chalk up a lot of things. Oh, the mark on the arm is coincidental. I don't usually believe in coincidence. I'm sorry you had that dream or experience. I guess you don't know really what to call it. All I know is I would start writing them down and keeping a record of them. And I know Lon would encourage you to do the same thing, like keep a record of what you're dreaming. If you any other time, if you're sleeping, it's kind of hard to notate missing time. You know what I mean? Well, I was sleeping for 10 minutes, but it felt like 12 hours. That happens all the time. But like if there's just any subtleties that you notice in your day-to-day routine, if you notice during the day you're missing some time, just notate everything you can down and take it to somebody that does have some experience in dealing with these situations. And that I would probably say reach out to Lon and talk to Lon about it, because he might be able to help you through it too. Or even Butch.
It's I mean, I have a lot of dreams that are vivid and stuff, but to be that, I think that has to be the most real that I've ever experienced anything. And the only unique thing surrounding the event was the fact that my husband had drove out late at night. It was probably around 11 or so. And he drove out. We live out by backcountry roads, and there's a park. And he drove up there, and there was this light, just this bright white but kind of blue light that it was like it was a helicopter light, but there was zero sound, there was nothing. And he was just automatically terrified, and he turned around and he drove away as fast as he could. And we went back the next day, and it felt like, I don't know if the right word's electric, but it was, I don't know, it felt like that. And there was nothing. Yeah. And there was nothing in that area where he told me that the light came from. There was no light source. Nothing.
But if you're sensitive, you may pick that up anyhow. Like you may just, it's like somebody who's, arthritic and they can feel the weather coming. If you're sensitive as it is, you might be able to feel that regardless. But there's
good point.
Physical there or not.
No, that's a really good analogy to put it that way, that, being sensitive, you might be able to pick up on whatever residual might be left behind. And I don't know, of course, the experience, too, leaves you kind of on the edge of your seat to begin with. But, if you get to that area and you're picking up, a sense that, I think you kind of know what I mean, and I'm sure our listeners understand exactly what that is, too. You're picking up all that residual effect of what may have been there is making a connection with an experience that you had. It's a puzzle piece, but it's a translucent puzzle piece, and it's hard to find a place to put it. But, that's why we all do this.
Oftentimes, guys, I've wondered if those that have experienced paranormal things or have experienced, something traumatic, if they don't have some sort of perceptive ability to see beyond the veil, and now they're able to see things more than, and it may be because it's after midnight here on the East Coast, I'm tired, but it may be, are you able to see more than what naturally meets the eye because you've already been experienced? Does that make any sense? Like, it's almost like, what did I say?
The world of sense, sure.
Yeah, what I said to my son, it's like leveling up in a video game. Like all of a sudden you've now unlocked this ability to, and I don't know, like, because I remember, and the reason why I'm glad you asked the question at the beginning, Vance, how I got started in all this. And I grew up in a family where we talked about it because my father my uncle and my grandfather have all had experiences with ghosts or spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They lived in a house
That's awesome.
up in Johnson City, New York, out on Hayes Road. I don't even think you can get there anymore. The house doesn't exist. But they lived in an old, restored farmhouse. And one night, my grandfather had come home from work and laid down on the couch and saw a woman in colonial garb walk right through the living room and walk right through the wall. And he was never interactive with them, but Grandpa said it was like almost like watching something in playback. You know, you got a residual haunting type thing going on there where they can see and they can't interact. Now, my dad and uncle had also had very similar experiences in that house, and I've always wanted to go back to that house, but like I said, I don't know if it exists anymore. And see if there is something there that maybe, you know, I'd love to experience something like that. I don't recall having very many of my own experiences with, like, ghosts per se. I have had a shadow person experience. It was incredibly scary, and actually happened in the house I live in now. But I was in bed lying with my wife, and all of a sudden I saw this really darker than dark of my room. And if you guys know what I'm talking about with shadow people, like dark, standing in the corner of my bedroom. And it frightened me so bad, guys, I started picking things up and started throwing it at it. But my wife rolls over and she goes, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "There's something standing in the corner of our bedroom." And, of course, she runs over and hits the light, and there's nothing there. But I'm laying here in bed looking over at that corner of the room, and there was something standing there as clear as day. And I had just come not too long before that from a home where we had done a pretty serious investigation, where we had something significant happen in the basement of this house, and I felt maybe later that was something that either tried to attach itself to me and come along for the journey, or just something that I just happened to spontaneously, experience. But it scared me, and man, that freaked me out for a while. And I've never experienced it again, but I experienced it that one time. And that was enough for me. So these people that have had those shadow experiences, I can empathize with that. That's a whole new ballgame. There's something sinister about it. There's a level of fear. And when I say black, guys, like, it is the heart of darkness black. Like, I've never seen anything in mass that dark, like a void in the shape of a humanoid figure.
Oh, yeah.
Weird.
No, that's, sorry. No, I was just going to say that's what my sister and I have encountered at the foot of our beds since we were small, and without saying anything to our children are seeing that stuff too.
Wow. I just got goosebumps. If I could show it, seriously, like goosebumps. It's scary.
It is. And I was talking to somebody, and they said that they did hear something somewhere about it being hereditary, which doesn't make it any better, but I mean, at least if it's written down somewhere, I might be able to find out more information. But and I'm glad
kind of leads.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that just kind of leads back to what you were just talking about, Sean, about, if you have that experience, maybe you open up and you become a little bit more apt to it. But that was the first time, when Jennifer brought that up to me, that was the first time I heard that maybe it's hereditary. Maybe there's something in the DNA and it is hereditary, and they identify with whatever that hereditary thing is, like a cancer. Okay, cancer runs through certain families more prominent than it does in other families.
Most definitely.
This might be kind of a attribute to that as well, that this is a hereditary problem, and maybe that's where this paranormal thing needs to be investigated at. And I find that just, wow, now you're going down an entirely different unexplored road medically to try to figure out what it is.
If we don't go down these roads, we'll never know. And the more people that report and talk about this stuff, that's how we build a case for it. In Jen's case, like, at least from our interactions and what I've listened, and there's some sensitive abilities you have, correct? Like, does your sister share any sensitive abilities?
I mean, a little bit, but she's always said that I was a lot. It was more intense for me than it ever was for her.
And of course, if your children might still be younger, they might not have even kind of recognized it yet. Because with kids,
Yeah.
that's the thing I always talk about with children is children will see everything, right? Imaginary friends, and we kind of scoff at it. But kids are uncorrupted by the world we live in until they become older, and we tell them things don't exist, and they stop believing in it. Santa exists, and so you say, hey, Santa doesn't.
Right.
And
Right.
it's the same thing with everything else. Like kids have imaginary friends. Are they really imaginary friends, or are they really playing with somebody that's there and we just can't see them?
Exactly.
And I'm not the first one to have that thought, right? Let's be honest. But kids, as we get older, we get indoctrinated into the world we live in, and we start thinking about things that are, we start killing ourselves with responsibility and lose that imaginative, creative. Some people do. Not everybody. And I think people that are a little bit more sensitive or a little bit more geared towards, that growing up with either a simpler life or not having the distractions, notice these things a lot more prevalently. And that could be something that, we should explore too. Heaven forbid somebody walks around without an iPad these days. Like, we don't notice the things that are in this world until sometimes it's too late. But with kids, like they still have that freedom and that freedom of thought that we lack, and there's got to be something in there. If we could find a way to blend the technology with that ability, we might be onto something.
Right. No, I've watched my kids when they were, gosh, how old? I want to say anywhere between 8 months and 15 months. I've seen them interacting with something that wasn't there. And it really felt like there was something there. And it is one thing that, like your family, it's something that we talk about because I don't believe in telling people that, oh, it doesn't exist, because you need to know also, I feel, how to protect yourself in certain situations. Yeah. No, and there was one experience too with my grandfather. He passed away, and it was only a couple months after he passed away. When I was little, he would carry dinosaurs in his pocket for me. He would get them from the grocery store, and he'd bring them home. And that's nothing I ever talked about with anybody, and it wasn't anything that I really did for my kids. And one day, my oldest, who was really young at the time, gosh, I think she was 5 or so, she just comes up to me and she says, "Papa Don has a dinosaur in his pocket." And of course, I crumbled to the floor. So yeah.
Yeah, how would she have known that, right?
Exactly.
That's a perfect example of that, and it's happened to a lot of people, and we hear these stories through talking to folks and listening to different people over the years, different TV shows. Like there's all kinds of stories chronicling this. We still refuse to, not we, but the public in general refuses to acknowledge this stuff as more than just either you've coached them or they just had details that there's no way in hell they would have unless they really experienced them, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And those stories to me are remarkable. There's something about that, something genuine that you can't force feed and feel. And this is a crazy field. It's, still by many considered to be a pseudoscience, the field of paranormal investigating. But I think the key is, I don't call it a science really, guys. I call it an investigation. It's an ongoing investigation with many different parts, with many different facets and many different topics. And you just can't narrow it down. You can't treat them all the same. And there's no there's a certain amount of belief one has to have in the witness or the experiencer, and there's a certain amount of skepticism you also have to carry with you at all times. You never take anything at face value, but sometimes the best explanation and the best answer is what's in front of you. This is what they experienced. They say the onus is always on the person making the claim. I don't know if that's always fair. Right. Because how can you prove something nobody's willing to believe to begin with? Just like your UFO, the Turkish UFO, the dichotomy of video or photographic evidence. If it's too clear, it's CGI. If it's not clear enough, it's garbage. There's no middle ground.
Exactly.
You're going to be fighting with the same assholes and idiots on all fronts. Pardon my French. But you're going to be fighting the war on two fronts. You're never going to win because it's never going to be good enough for anybody. It doesn't matter. All the evidence we'll ever have doesn't matter until we either crash a UFO on our own and drag its inhabitants out on CNN, or just kill a Bigfoot. And like both of these instances require the death of something to prove that it exists. And if you don't have a fundamental issue with that, I think there's something wrong with you. But we're never going to win. And we're never going to make people happy. And I think the other weak argument that hoaxers and not hoaxers, but skeptics always make is they always attack the education or intelligence level of the person who's experiencing something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty smart guy. I think so. I'm not freaking Einstein. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm not college educated. Does that make me any more any less credible than Dr. Heinz who experiences UFO? He's got a different criteria. And in academia, those people are weird to begin with. Like, they're not exactly operating on all thrusters if you've had a conversation with one.
No, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, they're a little screw loose anyhow. So we're never going to win. And I don't want to fight that battle anymore with people. I want to collect the stories. I want to investigate the claims, and I want to make my opinion. And if people believe it, great. If they don't, well, sorry, move along. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm on the same page. For me and why I do the Caravan is because, I mean, it's no different than getting a Goosebump book. I really love it. And then to be able to have other people in my little club that like to talk about the spooky things too, well, it's fantastic. Right. Every day's Halloween. Why wouldn't you want to, So I'm not out to prove anything to anybody. I don't care what people think. I'm just having fun. So.
Me too. And my dad asked me, guys, why, because we've all experienced this stuff. Why did I have to be the one to go out and start talking about it? Because now I'm not Bob's son. He's Sean's dad. It's really funny. But we go out and we talk about these things. We have conversations. And my dad's like, at what point is it not entertainment and is it research? And I was like, why can't it be both?
Right. Well, and it's also healing for a lot of people. So
there's that therapeutic aspect to it, that counseling part.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. No, just like we said at the beginning of the show, it's so fun to hear what your experience is that got you into this, and to draw the threads and the parallels between my experience and Jennifer's experience, and it is therapeutic. You don't feel alone. You do not feel alone, and if we offer that to even our listeners, even if they don't want to talk about their experience, but they listen, and other people's experiences, they don't feel so alone anymore, and it is very therapeutic that way. And, although you said, yes, this is an investigation, it's not a science, but I have to hand it to science for at least contributing tools to help the investigation along. I mean, look at the tools that we have now compared to 10 years ago. And we are moving a little bit further down the road in investigating and be able to identify what's not real a lot faster than we were before. Before we had, we would question and ponder and scratch our heads for a long time going, was it real? Now we can pretty much sort through all that stuff pretty quick. We still can't identify what it is from the unreal, but at least we're making big strides that way. So, thanks to science, that is happening. But, on we go.
Thank you,
and
science.
That's what we do. I am Mr. Science. Thank you. Yes.
And I've been podcasting, guys, for 12 years. I've been doing this on paranormal topics. It's a long time. And I've talked to a lot of people. The funny thing is going back, and I hate listening to myself. I don't like listening to anything I do, but there are times I go back and I want to listen to an interview I had. I did an interview with John Green. Like, how many people can say they interviewed John Green? and talk to John
Right.
Green or Dr. John Bindernagel, guys that have actually been out there busting their humps or had been out there busting their humps. And I go back and I talk to even just the everyday person. And there are some times where I'm like, wow, I've completely changed my mind on how I felt 12 years ago on this topic. Or
isn't that crazy?
I still feel the same. It is, because first of all, 12 years ago I was a lot younger and I didn't know half of what I know now. Hindsight being what it is. And there are still some things I'm a lot more regimented on. Like you take the subject of habituation, right, with Bigfoot. That's a big topic for research.
Oh, sure it is.
Does it happen, right? I think 90% of the habituation encounters are bull, but there's 10% that I think they're probably legitimate. And, a perfect example, I was just on Steve Cole's, the Squatch Detective Radio, last week, and I talked about this older couple. She was a retired nurse. He was a retired school teacher. He's losing his sight, so he was virtually blind. And these folks lived in the middle of an old forest in Pennsylvania, virgin trees, man. The trees were so big, I couldn't even wrap my arms around them. 120-year-old plush trees. They live out in this area all year round. And the other people that live out there are more seasonal, like spring, summer, and they're out fall and winter. They live out there year round. They had ongoing experiences with something, and she never came out and said exactly what it was until one day at about 2:30 in the morning, her dog needed to go out. She let her dog out. The dog wouldn't leave the end of the porch. It was raining lightly, so she didn't think much of it until she looked to the end of her yard and saw underneath this light over the dumpster a large Bigfoot opening the lid of the dumpster, taking the garbage out, going through the garbage. Her husband, keep in mind, guys, can't see. He's blind, right?
Right.
Always felt there was something else around. When you lose your vision, you lose a sense, like some of your other senses get better. That's just, for some reason, that's how the body adapts. He always felt there's something around. And those folks, they never sought out to become famous or do anything, but they wanted somebody to come out and be with them and see if they were going crazy or if there was something really going on. And they were the most genuine people I've ever met. And as far as I know, they're still out there. I've lost contact with them. I'd like to go out and visit them again. Lovely people. And it was just an incredible story. That's the 10% that I research for and that I investigate for. They don't talk about gifting, and they don't talk about hieroglyphics written in ancient Chinese that probably aren't written by Bigfoot, but that's when did that become a thing? Can I ask that question? Maybe you could enlighten me. When did Bigfoot start speaking Mandarin? There's over 100 dialects
that's
of
the first
Chinese.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, my research partner Ernie used to love when I do that in the woods, and he always thought we'd get a response for that. I always thought he was nuts. Turns out he was nuts, but
well, there you go. That makes it more fun, though.
Where did people come up with this stuff?
I don't know.
Wow.
And it's damaging to the field. That's the problem. Bigfoot will not knock on your back door and ask you for garlic. I don't think it will speak to you telepathically. And the reason why I say I don't think is because we don't speak to each other telepathically usually. Vance and I usually text. We don't, mind speak.
Right.
And the fact that you start attributing these more paranormal aspects to these creatures that, at this point we still believe biologically distinctive are animals. They're nothing, they're not ghosts, or maybe they are. I don't know anything, but they leave a physical footprint. We just start explaining more and more of a mystery on top of a mystery, and you start burying it, and it becomes less credible. So with habituation, same thing. It starts leaving you gifts, and you can gift back and forth, and I just don't buy into that. I could be wrong, guys. I don't think I am, but I can be. And I think sometimes people so badly want to believe that this is what's happening that they may go to great lengths to prove it just so they don't feel left out in the cold.
Right.
Well, and that's a good point. And you know what? The whole Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, it's been around for years now. And I think as people kind of go, yeah, I've heard that story. I know what it is. Yeah, but you didn't hear this part of the story. It can telepathically talk. And I think a lot of that might develop just from that, just to kind of keep that whole topic matter a little bit more fresh. Now, maybe 10 years from now, Sasquatch has the ability to sprout wings and is able to fly. And then can make
over
those
Chicago.
wings, disappear over Chicago. Exactly. Who knows, but it seems to be on that trajectory anyway, where there's more fascination and more fantasy that's added to it on a kind of a yearly basis to make that the whole cryptid thing still fascinating to listen to these stories. Now, you go back to the story that you were just telling, I believe that. I'm sorry, but I'm hands down, I will go all in. Put a gun to my head, say, was this story real? And I say, yes, fine, I get to live. I believe that creature was going through the dumpster. That's something that type of a creature would do. In my honest opinion, yes. It's going to go through a dumpster. It's involuntary habituation. You're throwing your scraps and food out, and they're like, well, it kind of smells good. Let's go over here and see what's in here. Any animal would do that.
You said the key term there, involuntary. And I think that's what, and maybe we ought to put that as a subcategory of habituation, as involuntary. It's like any other wild animal. It has a food source that's readily available for it. It doesn't have to expend a lot of energy. And when you're in the mood for survival, when energy is the most important thing you have, and you need to conserve as much to get a meal, like, it's there. And these people, they made nothing off this story. It never went public. In fact, this is the second time I've talked about it, I believe, in the 8 years that I've known them. Like, this is the second time. So they're definitely not getting a lot of exposure. And newsflash, folks, me and maybe 2 or 3 other people investigated these people. Nobody else. Like, they're not out there. Like, these stories, and there's tons of them across Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is, people think Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and that's Pennsylvania, but there's so much of Pennsylvania that's open and wooded, and so much of it is in the area I live, northern central Pennsylvania. It's a very conservative area, so if people were experiencing something, 9 times out of 10, they won't talk about it. It's just now, in the last 5 or 6 years, and Eric Altman will verify it, we're starting getting reports out of this area because people have found that there's somebody out here that will investigate and listen. That person happens to be me. They're finally learning that, and they're starting to get these reports coming in, and I think it's fantastic because the majority of them, the majority of these reports aren't anything spectacular. They're run-of-the-mill average sighting reports. I saw something across the road. I saw something in my yard, or little things. Things are missing from my property. My buddy Ray and I, my best friend Ray Hendershot, we were out driving a couple Januaries ago, and we really weren't paying attention to weather, and we should have, and a snowstorm had happened. And we were driving in his truck, and the area had just suffered some pretty severe flooding. The year before, the fall before, so that October, previous October, a lot of the roads in that way were damaged. A lot of the roadways were washed out, not a lot of protection in that area. And we went up around this road, and his truck got stuck. Well, we're out in the middle of nowhere. We had to hike 8 miles back to these cabins where, guess what? Guess who doesn't live out in these cabins during the winter? A lot of people. It's more of a summer area. Thankfully, there was one man living in his cabin year-round out there, and we went and knocked on his door. He was apprehensive to let us in, so he goes, let me ask you guys, what the hell are you doing out here? And I'm like, well, if I told you, I think you're going to kick us back out, but I'll tell you anyway. I actually called my dad. My dad came and picked us, was on the way, so we were waiting for my dad to come pick us up. And he starts talking. We tell him, we're out here, we're following up on a Bigfoot sighting that happened in this way not too long ago. And the guy goes, oh, Bigfoot, huh? He's like, yeah. He goes, well, let me tell you something, and you make of this what you will. But last summer, I heard these god-awful screams going around here, and I used to get this smell around my cabin all the time, this really strong, stinky smell. He goes, and I went out, looked for a bear. I could never identify what was leaving this smell. Well, over deer season, he had hung a couple deers out in his back porch. And he said the one night he heard a ruckus going on. I went out, and one of the deers was gone.
Oh.
Something stole the deer off his back porch. And he never did find it. He goes, if it was a bear, he probably would have been able to see more signs of it being a bear. He said something took it. And he, he was sincere, lived out there by himself. Like, again, another one of these people that live out in these areas year-round. And it's opportunity. And if these things live out there to begin with, well, they know this guy's out here all year. There's going to be something to eat. And he had no reason to lie to us either. In fact, he could have killed us. He was a crazy cabin guy. We could have been shot by now. But, my dad came, picked us up, and it was these stories.
But it goes back to your point, Sean, right there, that just makes your point so valid. That you go to this guy's house. You mean to tell me in the 3 minutes from your first introduction to, well, what are you doing out here, that he conjured up this whole story in his head to tell you?
Right.
It doesn't happen. It would be the next day he would slap himself on the forehead going, God, if I would, I could have made this great story up. I could have told these guys and freaked them out. And now, if he was coming up with it right then and there, telling, hey, I got to tell you something, it's a legitimate story that he told you. And if he wanted it to go over the top, he would have said, and then I saw this, 10-foot tall creature, but he didn't. So, there's validity to that story right there.
I don't recall him ever telling us he saw anything. And like I said, we had hiked 8 miles. We were already cold, and just needed a place to, make contact to see if somebody can come out and pick us up because his truck is stuck and not going anywhere. We were probably with the guy for maybe 65, 70 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, and at the most. And that's not a whole lot of time. From the time we sat down and talked to him to what we were doing out there, and he kind of relayed that story. We talked about it back and forth, and I even probed him. I'm like, with more questions. So, have you done a lot of reading on Bigfoot, or just try to gauge his legitimacy myself? Have you watched a lot of TV? And he goes, I ain't get the cable out here, So, he's kind of a backwoods guy. So, finding Bigfoot's not going to be an option at that time, and we take for granted these things are on now. Right, and this information is out there now. It hasn't always been that way, and there's still very rural parts of this country where people still aren't in tune with this. And when I tell you guys this is a conservative area, it really is. You have a lot of older people, old timers that have been hunting out in these woods that probably aren't going to open up and tell just anybody about something they experienced.
Right. Well, and it can be hard to share experiences, though, too. I mean, there will be something that'll happen, and it may take me 3 or 5 days to even tell Vance, I mean, it's weird at first to experience something, and then you question yourself, and you don't want to sound crazy, and, so I can understand why people might keep something to themselves for, ever.
I always think it's the person that you reach out and contact, too, and that person who you make a connection with. Both my grandfathers on my mother's side and my dad's side have always told me I'm probably the easiest person on the planet to talk to. I just have this calming, energy, like, genuine effect that people want to tell me things. Like, and guys, it's crazy. I don't do this on purpose. Like, I'm nothing special. Let me tell you, I'm me. I just happen to be caught up in all this weirdness, and I love every minute of it. But for some reason, people come to me and tell me this stuff, and I love it because you know what? Feel free to tell me. I'm not going to pass judgment on you unless you're really nuts, and then I might tell you, get away from me. And we've been in some situations. My best friend, James Baker, Bake Shop, you guys, he and I go everywhere together. He's always on my Facebook posts, and Baker's he's a great guy, and one time we were on an investigation, and I guess I just didn't eat my Wheaties that morning. I don't know what I was thinking. And this guy shows us this picture, and in this picture he's got things circled. He's like, well, this is a gray, and this is a Bigfoot, and Like he's got all these things circled and he's pointing it out to us. Pareidolia to the max.
Wow.
And
Oh,
Baker
okay.
goes,
Right.
and Baker goes, can I see the original? Because this was an enlargement of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And like he pulls out this picture, and it looks like he took it out of a window. And Baker goes, dude, this isn't a Bigfoot. He goes, this is a picture out your grandma's bay window. This is her flower garden. And like he's saying this in front of the guy, right? And this guy's just mortified. Well, he's like, let me take you up to this area where I've had some experiences. So me and Kelly Beverly, God rest her soul, she's not with us anymore. We lost Kelly a couple years ago. She's a very sweet girl. Miss her very much. Well before her time she was taken. And we were going to go up to the top of this mountain. And Kelly's like, well, I'd rather walk. And I'm like, well, you know what? You're better looking than Baker. I'll walk with you. And so James gets in this guy's Jeep, and they start going up the hillside. And all of a sudden you see the door fly open, and Baker jumps out of it. Jumps out of a moving vehicle.
Oh, my gosh.
And he comes back to me, and he's pissed. Like maybe because he just tucked and rolled out of a moving vehicle.
Yeah, right?
And he goes, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know what. He goes, you left me in the car with this lunatic. He goes, never again. He goes, this guy is nuts. And I guess he had a further conversation with Baker in the car, and it was enough for him to open the door and jump out of a moving vehicle. Like,
wow.
And we never saw the guy again. I never saw the guy. And Baker was just floored. And it's probably one of my favorite stories. And it turns out that this guy, he showed us a picture of his grandma's bay window. I've had a guy come to me, and he's a Vietnam POW, okay? And, he served his country, went through some traumatic experiences, so I'm always going to listen to this guy whether I believe him or not, right? He deserves somebody to listen to him. And every few weeks where I work, he would show up. He listened to my radio show and figured out where I work. And came to me, and he'd bring me these pictures, and he claimed aliens living in his concrete patio. Sounds crazy to you and me, right? But this is a guy that was in Vietnam. He was a POW. Like, I don't care if he told me it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He did his service for us. At least I could do is listen to him, right?
Right.
And, there are some people that just need an outlet. There's crazy people. There are absolutely insane people that make your research partner jump out of moving vehicles. Like, this is a whole cadre of people out there that I think at the end of the day, like, we go into that what if category again, Jen. Like, what if? Like, at the end of the day, what if there is aliens living in his concrete patio? Do I think there are? No. I also don't think there's leprechauns, but people see leprechauns. I also, don't think Bigfoot's telepathic, but people believe that too. So what if? What is the harm in what if? As long as they're not speaking for the community as a whole, I'm okay with them existing.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. They make for entertaining stories. So.
Well, Sean, I'll tell you what. To say the least. Yeah, it's scary too. But see, it's stories like that keep stories fed, that gives new light to shows like the X-Files, because they hear stories like this and go, hey, we could write an episode about aliens in the concrete. We can do that. And they can get away with it and sell it as a believable story. So there you go. Right.
But at the end of the day,
we're going to wrap
it
up.
Isn't an alien.
Thank you for doing this to begin with. And
thank you so much.
Jennifer already said, and I told Jennifer that I already gave you a big hug and a kiss on the cheek for stopping by the Caravan.
It was very nice, folks. You got to get a hug and kiss from Vance.
When we do meet up at Minerva Monster Day, I'm going to introduce myself to Baker, and I'm just going to go, dude, I remember you. Don't you remember me? I was the guy that was driving the Jeep, and you jumped out of my Jeep. What the hell did you do that for? So don't tell him that, okay?
I won't. I can't wait to see that. Tell me so I can Facebook Live it. I'm going to Facebook Live that.
Please, I want to watch.
That's going to be amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah, so tell him, don't listen to Caravan of Lore, because then he'll be in on the joke, and is what it is. Thank you, Sean, for stopping by. And, of course, where can everybody find you? Because I know.
You can find me every Friday night at 11 p.m. on the Existence of Strange Things on Radio Memphis. or go to my website,
Nice.
porkchop.net.
Awesome.
Cool. And of course, we're all over there putting in our own little 2 cents worth over at the Existers page. So if you guys aren't a member of the Existers yet, just go to Facebook, type in is it the Existers? No, just Existers, and then you friend request us or ask to be approved, and we'll let you in. And then, of course, you can join in the conversation over there as well.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you, Sean. This has been very informative and
It's been so much fun.
extremely entertaining. So, yeah.
It was my pleasure.
Wonderful
My
guy.
pleasure indeed.
Jennifer, any last words?
Say that I absolutely loved this. This has been one of my top favorite recordings that we've done. We went for 2 hours.
I know. I said 144. Wow.
I'm
Great stuff.
I'm so sorry,
we're
Sean.
gonna,
Kept you up so late.
I will have
I'm
to
not. I
kidnap
kept
you
talking.
boys and bring you back over to the caravan again.
Always, because I haven't talked about my encounter yet. That's a whole other thing for another time.
Exactly.
No, I know, and we're going to get to that. Trust
We
me.
are.
We're gonna
We'll
get
have
to
you
that.
back. Awesome.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you. Have a good night,
night,
everybody.
everyone.
You too, guys.